Okay, so we're still in chapter 1, section 1. So now we're on part D, finding the rate. There's just a lot of pieces to this because there's all the different pieces, all the different things that we can find from that one equation. So when we find the rate, we're going to set it up using interest. So we're taking our I equals PRT, and we're getting R by itself by dividing by P and R. So we get R equals I divided by PT. Okay, so again, just as a refresher, remember P goes over here, and then you can put your I or your S on the other side, and then how long would go up here. And if you have dates, then this would be the earlier date, this would be the later date. Okay, so we're going to look at example 10. And we're going to do it for 2 years instead of 1 year. Just because it ends up being a better example, so I apologize for not getting that done on the copy first. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we have an amount of $1,230 is needed to settle a loan. So that means that's our S. And then the loan is a loan of $1,150, so that's our P. So that means $1,150 goes over here. And then S was $1,230, so it goes at the end of our timeline for 2 years. Okay, so if we're doing 2 years, then 2 years will go here. Okay, what is the interest rate? So we're trying to find R to the nearest 0.1%. Okay, so when we plug all of this in, first thing we need is we need I. We don't have I right now. So we need to find what I is. So I we can find by taking the future value minus the present value, or S minus P. So here our I would be 1230 minus 1150. So I is $80. And we need that because remember our calculation to get R was I divided by PT. Okay, so now that we have I, we can plug everything in. So we get R equals our 80 over P 1150 times T. T here was in years, so we just put 2. Because again, we're not told what kind of rate this is, so we assume yearly. Okay, that's going to change later, which is why I'm making a big deal about it now. Okay, and then when we plug this in, it's going to be real similar to what we did in example 5 when we plugged in the same kind of keystrokes. So just make sure that you're careful with those. I can put those down here again real quick. So you'd have 80 divided by parenthesis 1150 times 2 and parenthesis. Again, you want to make sure that those parentheses are there, because otherwise you're going to get a whole different answer. And then for our rate, we end up getting 0.03478, and it's going to keep going, but again, we're rounding to the nearest 1%. So when we convert this to a percent, we're going to take that decimal point and we're going to move it 2 spots, and then so we really have 3.478%. But we again want to round to the nearest 0.1%, so that means we're rounding the 4, so we look at the 7. 7 tells us to round up, so we get 3.5% is our final answer. When we find the time, we have a real similar approach. We have T equals I over PR. So again, this is just a variation of I equals PRT. So all we're doing is just dividing by P and R to get T by itself. So again, just reiterate the timeline. P goes over here, S goes over here. Remember, we can find I by taking S minus P. So remember, S is your future value, P is your present value, and then here we have our beginning date and then our end date. Okay, so this is our process. So let's look at example 11. So we have a loan is obtained, okay, of $4,200. So that means our P is 4,200. So popping that on our timeline, it goes at the beginning because that's our present value, and that's at 15.5%. So R is 15.5%, so that would be 0.155 when we convert that to a decimal, because again, to convert to a decimal, we divide by 100. We're not told anything here, so we're going to assume yearly, right? And then the amount to settle the loan is our S, so that's going to be $4,796.75. So that goes at the end of our timeline, like this. And then we want to know what's the term of the loan. So term is just another way to say T, okay? Term is T. Term is time. And then here we're also told that we want it to the nearest month, okay? Because remember, T is going to be in years, because this is yearly and they're going to match. So when we plug this in, first thing you notice is we need I again, so we have to figure out what I is. So I would be our S, 4796.75, minus our P, 4200. So when we get that, we get I equals 596.75. Okay, and then plugging that in to get our T, we're going to have 596.75 divided by P, which was 4200, times our R, 0.155. So again, it's going to be similar keystrokes to what we just did in example 10 and example 5 for keystrokes. So then for T, when we plug this in, you should get 0.19166, and then the 6 is going to keep repeating. Remember, this is in years, okay? So now we have to convert this to months. So don't round it, just multiply your answer. So do answer times 12, and you'll get the months, okay? Because there's 12 months in a year, so we should get 11 months. It should be a nice integer in this case. You shouldn't need to round. So that means that our term is 11 months.